Hi everybody, I'm Victoria Simmons with the Georgia Post, and this is this week's edition of the Georgia Post Review. My co-host this week is Linda Reynolds. Our guest this week is Laura Gentry, who is the CEO of Medical Center of Peach County, Navicent Health. Welcome.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you today.
Thank you.
So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got where you are as CEO?
Okay. So my background is a nurse. I've been a nurse for 33 years. I spent 20 years taking care of patients at the bedside, and several years ago I somehow got involved in the quality department at House Medical Center, and that was a place I just fell in love and learned that data and what's really going on behind the scenes that before it ever impacts the delivery of care to the patient. So through my journey through the quality department and learning about like I said, regulatory things and that kind of thing, I've moved up into the leadership position at House Medical Center as the director of nursing, and I stayed there for a while. And about 3 years ago, I had the opportunity to start working at the Medical Center of Peach County as the chief nursing officer. Have loved my experience at Peach. It's a wonderful facility. And back in September, the opportunity came up for me to move into the role as the chief executive officer. So that's been my journey of moving into my current position at the Medical Center of Peach County.
Wow, that sounds like a nice career.
It's been great. I love healthcare. It's great.
So tell us about Navicent Medical Center of Peach County. Tell us about the facility, and it's fairly new, and just all the services that you provide. And
okay, so if you haven't seen the hospital, it is beautiful.
Yes,
They did a great job building that facility. It's 25 beds. It's called a critical access hospital, and critical access just basically is a designation that you get through Medicare to service rural communities. So we have certain rules and regulations that we have to comply with them, and one of them is that you only can have 25 beds. So we have 25 beds, and in those beds you have acute care patients, those patients that are sick, and then or you can be in what we call a swing bed, and a swing bed is basically it's a rehab bed. It's we do physical therapy, occupational, speech therapy, long-term antibiotics. That's another service that you can have in swing bed. We have an emergency department. We have 14 beds in our emergency department. We're a busy little ER. We see about 22,000 patients a year.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's a lot for a small ER. Yeah. The cool thing is, being a part of Navicent Health, we have direct access to the big hospital. So even though we don't provide a high acuity level of care, we do have access. So if someone were to come into the emergency department, we can get them to the medical center if they were to, like a big trauma or something like that. Usually a big trauma would go straight there, but sometimes we have people pull up in a private vehicle looking, that
I'm having a heart attack.
That, or we've had gunshot wounds pull up, somebody pulls them in
You've
ready to
even had
drop.
a baby born.
We've had a baby. She couldn't make it, and so we've delivered babies. So we're a full service emergency department. So that's the good. We have a helipad too. So we've actually are able to fly you out. We've had some burns where people were doing brush fires and that kind of thing that got out of hand, and some pretty bad burns have come in that we were able to fly to Augusta. So it's a great little hospital. Outpatient services. We have a full service lab, full service radiology. We have an MRI unit that comes one day a week.
And the lab, but the lab is 24/7.
It is.
Right?
So that was something.
Anytime.
We implemented that about a year ago, and the thought was we were sitting around talking about services, and we have lab personnel 24/7 because we have an emergency department. So we were like, well, why would we limit when a patient can come in for the outpatient services? And as a working female, you hate to get off work to go get your mammogram, so we expanded mammogram services as well up until about 7 o'clock at night. And then radiology, plain film radiology, is also 24/7. So our hope was to be able to target those people that work and don't, want to take time off work to have their lab and x-rays.
Yeah, and as far as proximity, the people in Crawford County have options. They could go to what they call it, the mothership, the
big hospital, that's right.
Which is a level 1 trauma center,
It
right?
is, right.
And if you're in a very bad car accident and you need trauma services, the medical personnel will make that decision for you and transport you directly to that hospital. But if you have a high fever and you feel like you need to be seen and you need to go to an ER, or you fall and break your arm and you know it's not going to kill you, but Peach County's closer, right?
Right, right. And we always tell people, if always go to the closest emergency room if you're unsure, and we'll decide for you. We'll get you the services you need. But you're right. We can take care of those things: the broken arms, coughs, colds.
Even
Just
something like a snake bite. You could,
We do snake bite. Yeah, we get those too.
And dog bites.
Lots of dog bites. Yeah. Yeah, the list goes on. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, you're right. It is, proximity. You're right. In fact, coming over here today, I wasn't sure how long it would take me, and I was just thrilled to find out it was just a 20-minute drive from here to the hospital. It wasn't far at all. So
that's from the
you're right.
center of the county too.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's not far. So, I think we have a hospital that we can be really proud of, and like you said, meet the needs of the community, not just in Peach County, but the outside counties as well, Taylor, Crawford, Macon County.
And you have a variety of other services there too. You have a wonderful cafeteria.
We do.
They call it the diner, with a trained chef,
Right?
right? At least 2 of the people in there working full-time have been to culinary school.
Right.
And it's very inexpensive, so if you feel like you're going between here and Houston County and you want to stop someplace for a really healthy and
Right.
Delicious lunch.
And we do have our faithfuls. We have a couple of folks that work, for the county. I think it's what they stop there every day. They're there every day.
Planning and zoning is
Planning
there.
and zoning is there. That's right. So
Commercial.
it's a great way to get a hot meal that's good. It's not just a hamburger or chicken strips.
Exactly.
It's something different. So something else I failed to mention is we do have an operating room. Right now, we don't really have general surgery, but what we do a lot of is endoscopies and colonoscopies. A lot of screening, colonoscopies, endoscopies, and we do about 80 cases a month. So that's a pretty busy little endoscopy suite. So we're always trying to recruit surgeons. So if we can get one, that they like to get in those operating rooms and stay busy all day long. So.
Yeah, and you also have vascular services.
We do vascular services. We have Vascular Institute, Navicent Health, comes out every day, 5 days a week, to declot the grafts for patients that get dialysis. Their grafts sometimes will clot, and it's a very difficult thing for them to have to, and sometimes it happens frequently, so to have to go downtown for something like that when they can just go to the medical center of Peach County. Parking is easy. You can navigate the parking lot. You don't have to do a deck. Check-in's easy, and it's just a real easy place to navigate for those patients. So we do that. We also have a podiatrist that comes.
Really?
We do podiatry. He comes about 2 days a week, and he stays pretty busy as well. So
Good to know.
yeah.
Now, the swing bed process, that's for patients who maybe had a surgery and they need some recovery time.
Right.
Like they can't go home, but they don't really need to stay as a hospital patient kind of thing. And you provide care for them as well.
We do. So those patients are not acutely ill like if you were getting rehab at the Navicent Health Rehab Hospital. Those patients are a little sicker. So our patients, they need long-term. I think our average daily length of stay for swing bed patients is about 20 days. So it's a patient that may need long-term antibiotic, or like you said, they've had surgery and they're just not able to go home and take care of themselves. It may be that they can't dress themselves yet. They can't bend down and put their pants on, or wash their hair, or it can be the ability to walk, to ambulate any kind of distance. Long-term antibiotics, I mentioned that. A lot of patients, sometimes patients can get like an infection in their bone, for example, and that requires IV antibiotics. The pill antibiotics isn't going to get it. So they'll come and get 2-3 weeks of IV antibiotics, and it's their home. I mean, it is. It's they're
I know
with
at
us.
least one lady who wants to move in.
I know. They are. So, and we try to accommodate things. We've had them where they had their birthday while they were in there, so we've offered up. We had somebody that was there for Christmas, and so we were able to offer up the they used, I think, our boardroom to have their family get together for Christmas. So that was nice. And not to mention, we have wonderful volunteers that have, we have great volunteer services at the hospital, and they do a lot for us, delivering trays, helping check in patients. And one of the things they did is they helped donate a little pergola that's outside. And the goal was for those long-term patients that are there for 2-3 weeks. I mean, they don't want to stay in a room, they want to get outside. So this pergola that the volunteers services helped us build is a nice place for the patients to go outside and just sit and enjoy the air. There's a fountain there,
a fountain and camellias that were planted in the honor of people who have auxiliaries, volunteers who have served at Peach County and are no longer with us.
Right. Yeah, so it's beautiful. The other thing is a lot of patients have their dogs. They miss their dogs so bad. So families, yeah, that would be me too. I would want my dog. So they'll come into the pergola and they'll bring their dogs and sit and visit with their dogs for a while. So we get that quite a bit. I'm like you, I would want my dog more than anybody to come see me. So we can't let the dogs in the building, but we certainly can.
Not even therapy dogs?
Therapy dogs and service dogs, but not pets, because you just don't know if they,
have manners.
Have manners, or we wouldn't want any fleas, so nothing like that. So, so that's a nice area as well. So,
and there's also a gift shop run by the volunteer service,
right.
So people can come if they're visiting somebody. They can pick up something at the gift shop and bring to them.
Right.
So
it's nice to have that as well. And we have the chapel. There's a chapel there that's really pretty that families do use. We were able to host this. I cried for 2 days with this, but we were able to host a reunion of an organ donor. It was a local person that. Let's see, the local family, I believe, were the donors and the recipient, and we were able to host that through our organ procurement organization. So that chapel was just a beautiful place for that reunion to take place.
Oh,
like I said, I cried for 2 days. I did. It was beautiful. It really was. One person's loss, another person's gain. Yeah. So. One thing I want to throw in there too is I'm really excited about. We are getting a walking path. When the foundation raised money to build the hospital, there was money that was earmarked for a walking path. So they did not put that in initially when they built the hospital. They marked off some. I don't know if you've seen the feet that are around the building. So that's kind of marking the path. But now we're putting in a trail that's cushioned. So it's a true walking track. It's going to be a 4th way around, so 4 times around will be your mile, and it's supposed to have some exercise equipment in the middle. So we're hoping the community will enjoy that. And that's not just for employees, that is for the community to get out and get healthy. And I love that. And that was something that donors had.
It's a great community outreach.
It is. I love it. I hope I'll get out there and use it.
Go use the track and then go inside and eat.
Yeah. That's about the way I would do it.
First, and then get the calories.
That's the way I would do it.
Yeah.
So we're really excited about that. The equipment's been delivered. It's coming in sections, so once it's all there, it'll be installed.
Now, will you have a grand opening kind of dedication?
We will.
For that?
We will.
Okay.
So I'll keep you posted on that, so we can let everybody know about it. So I'm really excited about that.
Now, Laura, the 3rd leading cause of death in the United States is medical error. Behind heart disease and cancer. So tell me some of the things you do to avoid these medical errors.
Okay. So medical errors can also include, hospital-acquired infections where we've not used good hand hygiene and pass on infections. So there's a couple things we've done, and we actually won 2nd place with the state last year on our work to prevent infections from patients that have catheters. So if you have a urinary urinary catheter, you're at great risk for an infection because it can introduce into your body. And so we put in measures. Well, the first thing we did is really work on not having catheters if at all possible. So we decreased our catheter days and just we implemented, along with our medical staff. We have a fantastic medical staff we partner with them. It is not in any way, power struggle between the two. So
Imagine a smaller hospital environment lends itself to
It's
teamwork.
nice, yes. I guess you could look at it one way. If there's one that's fighting you, it could be really hard, but we do not have that. We have a great, our medical staff is just amazing. So we worked with them to implement protocols where the nurse doesn't have to call the doctor to pull out the catheter. So if a patient gets transferred to us, and if there's not a medical reason to have that catheter, we can pull it out. I think somewhere in the medical community, sometimes it was more convenient to have that, so we're not doing that anymore. And then put in some protocols to prevent infections. We've done the same thing with our lines, our IVs that go to the heart. I mentioned that we do long-term antibiotics. Those patients, the tip of that catheter goes right into their heart, so it's really critical that we have processes and protocols in place for that. Something else that we do, it's called barcoding. So on medications, we scan the medicine and scan the patient armband, and it's supposed to correlate that yes, that's the right medicine for the right patient. So there's 5 R's for patients: right patient, right drug, right time, right dose. So it confirms that. Yeah, it confirms that. Something else that we do, we don't have pharmacy services 24 hours a day. We have a pharmacist from 8 to 4:30, 7 days a week. So we've contracted with an outside pharmacy after hours. They are watching our, we call it a Pyxis queue. It's basically the medication dispenser machine talks to the orders that the doctor puts in, and so there's a pharmacist off-site monitoring our medications and looking for, interactions between drug, food, those kind of things, allergies. So we don't bypass anything that we wait for the pharmacist to tell us, yes, it's good to go. Sometimes we may have to bypass the medication just for urgency's sake or whatever emergency sake, but for the most part we try really hard to make sure that we let that pharmacist review those drugs. So we've done several things to just ensure patient safety and make that a priority.
But you've had a really good track record with hospital-acquired infections, right?
We have. Mm-hmm.
Like one of the lowest?
We went all last year without any.
Yeah.
Yes. So we did add a new one this year that we were really trying to monitor, and that was what we were, what we monitored. We have C. difficile is probably one of the hardest ones because of the long-term antibiotics. That C. difficile is where when you're on antibiotics for a while, you can get that infection in your gut. So we try really hard to prevent that. And I noticed we talked about the hand hygiene dispensing.
Oh, yeah.
So that's one of the things. So we have hand hygiene dispensers everywhere, but what staff came back and said is, hey, Miss Laura, one of the things we would like is to have more of those around.
Because they weren't in the rooms, right?
They weren't in the rooms.
Hallways.
They were in the hallways. So, but they weren't in the patient rooms, and staff said we want them in the rooms too because we want families to do this as well because families spread infections in the room.
Yeah.
We want because those things you can only have so many in a fire compartment because they're flammable. So we said, well, okay, how do we get more of them? So we had to pull out what we had and put in smaller units so we could have more. So that was something where the staff came back and said, hey, this is something we need to do.
You don't think about family spreading infection.
Oh,
You
but they
know?
do.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
Of course they do. And you also had a hand washing campaign.
We did. I was going to ask you if you saw that video. So the video is about a family member that comes in and comes to the desk and puts her hands on the desk where a nurse had just laid something, and then she goes back to the room, and the next thing you know, this patient several days later has an infection. So the question is who, in the video, who spread the infection? Was it the nurse? Was it the family member? You'll never know.
Yes.
But it was both probably. But yes, family members, they got to practice good hand hygiene as well.
Right.
They touch the family, their, I don't know, their clothes or their bed or whatever, and then if they don't.
I mean, one of the
sanitize.
things that's very comforting for a patient frequently is to just hold their hand.
Mhm.
Human touch is
Right.
a part of the healing process too. And if that hand has any kind of germs on it, and we all do,
Right.
it's really important that they wash their hands
Right.
after.
Yeah, just
if
hit
they-
that hand sanitizer on the way out the
Yeah.
door and
But you had a whole program on hand washing and
We did.
required every single person, even the volunteers, to take
right,
it.
we did. We felt like that to do this hand hygiene campaign was critical to just, you know it, but sometimes it just has to come back and, put it out there for you again. So we called that our core competency. We put it part of our mandatory competency last year, that every person go back through this hand hygiene campaign, watch that video that I mentioned that just shows an outcome that didn't go so well.
Yeah, death isn't good.
It isn't good. It is not good. Just to, bring it home to how powerful and critical hand hygiene is. So we've done a lot of things like that, just trying to remind people of the, another project that we're working on. Now that I've got the opportunity, we've really worked hard on our throughput in our emergency department. We have, Navicent Health has a lot of people that are black belt certified. It's that Six Sigma. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but it's basically a process improvement methodology to really make sure that you look at, the whys. Why are you doing something like you are? Why? And then get to the root of it.
Yeah, we're not talking about black belt in karate.
We're not talking karate, no. It is Six Sigma. So Medical Center actually has several people that are black belt certified. So we actually did a project with a girl that was working on her black belt for Six Sigma, not karate.
Okay.
And she did a throughput project with our emergency department. And the project is when a patient comes in, instead of them going to the window, checking in, sitting down, getting called back out to get triage, go sit back down, then go back to the room. We did a project where they would do a quick registration, not a full registration, but just get name and date of birth, go straight to triage, and if there's a bed in the back, go straight to the back, just to kind of keep it moving.
Yeah.
And it has been very successful. In fact, we're submitting this now to see about getting it published, because it really had a great impact on the movement of patients through the emergency department. That's not to say that if you come in and everybody comes in at the same time and I can't move you back, but the emergency department
And if all
staff,
14 beds are full, you know,
Right.
you can't double bunk them.
right. But what we did do is there's a little waiting room, and so I'll have to show you next time you're there,
Okay.
that we're using to try to, if you're just waiting for results of something, maybe you can go sit right there. You've seen the doctor, you've had your x-ray, go sit there and wait for the
Open
results.
up that bed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
open that back bed to keep it kind of moving. So that's a project that we've done that's really been very successful. And I tell you, January and February were tough with the flu. We had a 30% increase in volume. And if we had not been doing that immediate bedding process, I'm not sure we could have moved patients to, our 14 beds, because I think
That's awesome.
I wrote down, I believe we saw 2,500 patients that month in January. 14 beds, 2,500 patients. So if we had not had that process, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so with that process and knowing that it's a rural hospital and it's relatively close and you have a 14-bed ER, why would you want to go to one of the major medical
Right.
centers and sit
Yes.
there and wait?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, you just the drive, all of it,
Yeah.
the time.
Another thing I think is interesting is that there is a general practitioner, family doctor, right there at the hospital who is taking patients. You can go there for your yearly physical.
Right. Dr. Tamika Bird is part of Navicent Health Physician Group. So she, when she started looking for a job after her residency, she wanted to be in rural health. That was her desire. And so as she began looking for, and I can't speak completely how it all worked for her, but when she got with Navicent Health with the physician group, she told them, I need to be in rural health. And of course, we're like, hello, come work with us.
Pick us.
We actually had an office space that we were able to lease out to Navicent Health Physician Group and get her on site. It's a private office, so we don't send things to her, but she's basically leasing a space. But man, is it nice. I mean, there's a physician right there, so it's great.
So theoretically, I could go get my yearly physical at the hospital. And she says, well, Linda, I want you to have some blood work. That's a normal thing to do once a year. So she escorts me to the back of the office and I walk across the hall
Exactly.
to your 24-hour lab, right?
Exactly, right.
I get my blood drawn and then she said, well, you're here. Why don't you go get your mammogram? And I go down the hall to get that.
Exactly.
So.
Everything's right there. You don't have to, drive somewhere else to have it all done. Your x-ray, your lab.
And scheduling, oh my gosh. You get a call and say, would next Tuesday or the following Thursday? But I don't know. I don't have my calendar.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
It is nice. It's worked out really well, and she, she's growing. Her business has grown quite a bit. She has obviously privileges at the hospital, so she sees the patients. She's right there for her patients as well. So if she has somebody in the hospital, she just can walk down the hall and go see them if something's going on. So that works out really nice. And she's just such a pleasant physician. I mean, she really is. She really is. So that's worked out really well. I'm glad you brought that up. And again, the parking and the ease of navigating that parking lot and coming in the door, I think is such a critical piece for the community. I think especially elderly, it's hard to have to walk, a half a mile across a parking lot or whatever. So.
Oh, there's a sleep study room there too.
You are on it. You're right. We do sleep studies. We do about 40 sleep studies a month.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. We have 2 beautiful sleep rooms. The previous girl that worked with our marketing department had hotel background. She came from hotel, so she got a hold of those rooms and made them as close to a hotel room as possible. So that, and the theory is, or the thought is, that the patient would sleep better and that you would get a much better study if it's a comfortable setting. It's got the Keurig and the muffin and she set it up. So it's a really nice environment to help you get a real accurate reading on your study so that you have a good night's sleep. So, and I didn't realize this until I started working sleep studies. They actually do day studies. There are people that they'll do their study in the day because maybe they're a night shift worker, so their sleep schedule is day shift. Mm-hmm. So sometimes if you may see the sign that says silence, sleep study in progress, and you're in the middle of the day, you're thinking, really? And then, yes, it is.
I have to wheel the food cart around
quiet.
A different way.
Yeah. They got a sleep study going on. So.
Full disclosure, I am a volunteer.
And a good one, too. A great one.
Yeah, well, it's been a pleasure. One of the things I love about the hospital location is that all of the photography around the halls done by Peach County residents and sent as a competition.
Right, when they built the hospital.
Yeah.
Including me. I have 2 there.
You do? Oh, you have to tell me which ones are yours.
It was in the waiting room where the Coke machine is, one of them, and the other one was in another room. I don't remember.
Well, my husband retired from, not quite retired, but he worked for 30 years for Bluebird. So I love the Bluebird pictures, just because I just remember all the stories, and it raised our family. Bluebird raised our family, so I have a little special place for Bluebird.
Well, mine's Ficklin Mill and then Barbara Ray's yard. So.
Okay. There's some beautiful, beautiful pictures.
The talent in Peach County is amazing.
It is amazing. I love the one at the Byron train station. I think a lot of people, it's funny, there are people, you'll see them, they can hardly walk, but they're going to stop and look at those pictures and see if they can recognize where they're from. And there's one that I think is an old home in Fort Valley that a lot of people love to. It's a big front porch with a big white house, and people always study that. Where's that at? So it's personal.
Yeah, it is.
The Medical Center of Peach County it's personal. It's a community hospital, and I think we still service the citizens of this area.
But you also draw from other counties too. You draw from Houston, Crawford, Taylor.
Right, Macon County. Right now, 60% of our patients still come from Peach County. We just did a zip code analysis.
Oh, okay.
Peach County is about 60%. About 20% are coming from Houston County. And then it's Taylor and Macon County, Crawford County. Those are kind of make up the other piece there.
So somebody from Macon Bibb would drive down to Peach to be seen rather than going to the big hospital in Macon.
So Macon County, as in Montezuma and Marshallville.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She's not from here.
Yeah. So Macon, Marshallville and Montezuma.
Okay.
So we get a lot of their patients. So when they come up, I believe they can choose between Perry Hospital and us, where it's kind of, that's their choice. I think it's pretty close. So we get our share of those.
Well, Laura, we appreciate you being here today, and we thank you for that. Lots of good information, and it is a beautiful facility. So
thank you. I'm proud to be a part of it. I really am. So thank y'all very much for having me today.
Well, thank you. Well, that's our show for today. Our guest has been Laura Gentry, CEO of Peach Regional Medical Center, now is Health, located in Peach County, but it's also available to our residents here. We hope that you have a good week, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.